Welcome, my name is Kevin Brandon, and what I want to show you today in Photoshop is another place where you can work smarter and not harder. In this case, I have got an RGB folder with a number of images in here, RGB images that you want to switch over to CMYK. And normally how you do that is if you don't know about actions or batch inside of Photoshop, you would open up the files individually and you would change the color mode, then you'd save the file, then you'd close the file, open up the next one and change the color mode, save the file, close the file. So let me show you how to do this inside of Photoshop using actions and batches. So first of all, I'm going to go to the window menu and go to actions. Inside the actions, there's a lot of default actions here from Photoshop already. So I'm simply going to create a new folder and call it like My Actions. So I know where my actions are. And inside of there, I'm going to click the plus button at the bottom of the actions panel. And this is going to create a new action. And I'm going to call this RGB to CMYK, making a descriptive title for this, saving it inside of My Actions. If I use this a lot, I can apply a function key to this, or I can choose a color if I want to start to categorize things. I'm going to click record. When I click record, it's going to start recording the actions that I do inside of Photoshop. So I can see that this is an RGB image. I'm going to go to my image menu, go down to mode, and change this to be CMYK. So once I change it to this, it's going to ask me out the swap color. I'm going to say OK to that for right now. And there we go. I'm simply now going to save this file. So do a save as. And if I want to change the file format, I can. I'm going to leave it as, well, maybe change to Photoshop. There we go, Photoshop. And save it in my CMYK folder and click save. So I've got it saved, and now I want to close the file. When I do this, the actions panel goes away. Don't worry, I can go back to the window menu with the file closed and go back to actions, and I can see that close was here, and I'm simply going to stop the recording. So I've created an action called RGB to CMYK. I've converted the mode. I've saved it in a Photoshop file format, not JPEG, and then I've closed the file. So with the action created, what I can do now is I can go to my file menu, and I'm going to go to automate and choose batch. When I do this, it brings up the menu here and says, okay, inside of my actions, I can switch to default actions if I'd like. I can choose the RGB to CMYK that I just made, and I'm going to choose my source folder. So all the files are inside my RGB folder, so I'm going to simply click choose. Choose my RGB folder, and there's all the images inside there. Just need to choose the folder and click choose. I don't have to worry about any of the other commands here, override the open commands or include subfolders. There's no subfolders because I've done a lot of the commands inside of the script. I don't even need to choose the destination. Sometimes the destination folder can cause issues, but I've done it all inside of the action. So now I just basically have to click OK. I've told Photoshop what to do, open up the images, convert them to CMYK, change them to a Photoshop file format, and save them in the CMYK folder. The batch just went away and Photoshop home menu is here, so let's see what happened. Hiding Photoshop, going to my CMYK folder, I can see all these files and they're PSD files, not JPEG. I'm going to choose to open up, say the middle one here, open with Photoshop. And when I open with Photoshop, I can see that it's all been switched to CMYK. Perfect. Now, for those of you working in Photoshop and needing change resolution, what if I created an action with not only the color change, but also the resolution? Try that and see how it works for you. Thank you.